Most budget red dots are a complete waste of money. They break, they fog, and they lose zero. But these 10 budget optics actually survive real abuse. We are counting down the toughest red dots you can buy for under a few $100, starting right now. Number 10. Vortex Crossfire 2. The Vortex Crossfire 2 sits around $150 to $180, and most shooters buy it for one reason. Vortex backs it with an unlimited lifetime warranty. No receipt needed, no questions asked. If it breaks, they fix it or replace it for as long as you own it. But the warranty is not the only reason this optic lasts. Owners have dropped it from 5 feet onto tile floors, and it kept its zero. One tester left it submerged in a sink for 30 seconds, and it never fogged or leaked. The battery runs up to 50,000 hours on the newer Gen 2 version, which is close to 6 years if you leave it on non-stop. The housing is aircraft-grade aluminum, sealed with an O-ring and purged with nitrogen so moisture cannot get inside. That is the same waterproofing method used in optics that cost 3 times as much. One reviewer turned the Crossfire 2 on at the start of a testing period and left it running on setting 6 without ever switching it off. 6 weeks later, it was still going strong, which lines up with the 50,000 hour rating almost exactly. The one weak point is the brightness knob. It is stiff, and in freezing weather some users say it takes real effort to turn with gloves on. There is also no auto shutoff and no motion sensor, so forgetting to turn it off drains the battery faster than the rated number suggests. The glass shows a slight halo around the dot at the highest settings, though most users say it never affects accuracy at realistic shooting distances. Outside those complaints, the Crossfire 2 keeps showing up in long-term reviews with the same result. It gets used hard and it keeps working. Number 9. Bushnell Trophy TRS 2525 is the cheapest optic on this list, and it might be the toughest for the price. Street price sits around $50 to $90, sometimes less during sales. For that money, you get a sight that has survived multiple drops, thousands of rounds, and constant rain exposure, according to long-term owners who have used the same unit for years. Bushnell backs their red dots under a product lifetime warranty. For electro-optics like this one, that coverage runs 5 years against defects in materials or workmanship. One owner sent in a TRS-25 with a canted lens after years of use hunting geese, and Bushnell replaced it for free. The TRS-25 is not fancy. It has no motion sensor and no auto shutoff, so you have to remember to turn it off or the battery drains faster. Battery life sits around 5,000 hours on the CR2032 cell, which is short compared to newer optics that rate in the tens of thousands. The lens also carries a slight green tint that some shooters notice right away, and at the highest brightness setting, the dot can bloom into a small starburst rather than staying a clean point. But the core promise holds up. It is waterproof enough to handle 3 feet of submersion for 30 minutes. And the aluminum body has proven itself through thousands of rounds on rifles, shotguns, and even hard recoiling platforms it was never designed for. One long-term owner put nearly 3,000 rounds through a TRS-25 mounted on an AK pistol, a setup known for punishing optics with sharp recoil impulses, and the sight still held 0 years later. For a sight that regularly sells for under $50 during sales, that kind of track record is hard to beat. Number 8. Primary Arms SLX MD25 Primary Arms built a reputation on giving shooters features usually reserved for optics twice the price, and the SLX MD25 proves the point. It runs around $170 to $210, depending on the reticle you choose, and independent testers have put more than 2,800 rounds through it without a single failure. One review team ran 15 drops from 4 feet straight onto concrete as part of their standard test. The optic kept its zero through every single drop. They also submerged it in 3 feet of water for 45 minutes. well past the rated waterproof standard and found no fogging or leaking afterward. The battery life is rated at 50,000 hours on the medium setting, which works out to more than 5 years of continuous runtime. The 25mm clear aperture gives a wider field of view than most optics in this price range, since many competitors only measure the outer housing and call it a 30mm lens, even though the actual visible glass is smaller. The mounting system includes recoil lugs and large diameter cross bolts designed to keep the optic locked in place under heavy recoil, instead of walking loose over time, something cheaper mounts are known to struggle with. Primary Arms also backs the SLX line with a lifetime warranty and has built a reputation for standing behind that promise without hassling customers over paperwork. One owner removed the optic from a rifle, stored it for months, then remounted it on a different gun, and it returned to the exact same zero without any adjustment. The only real trade-off is size. At 3 inches long and 6.5 ounces, it is bulkier than the true microdots on this list, so it fits best on rifles rather than handguns. Number 7. Holosun HS507CX2. The Holosun 507CX2 costs more than the entries so far, usually between $300 and $350. But the durability story explains why so many serious shooters choose it anyway. This optic uses 2 power sources at once, a standard battery and a solar panel that kicks in automatically as a backup. If your battery ever dies in daylight, the solar cell keeps the dot running. It also uses shake-awake technology. Leave the optic untouched for 10 minutes and it powers down to save battery. The moment you pick it up and move it, the dot appears again in under a second. One tester left it sitting in a safe for 2 weeks, picked it up, gave it a shake, and the reticle came right back. The housing is built from 7075 aluminum, the same grade used in many premium optics, and it carries an IP67 waterproof rating. Long-term testing shows real-world battery life, stretching 4 to 5 months of regular range use with shake-awake turned on, and continuous runtime on setting 6 lands at an incredible 50,000 hours with the dot only, or roughly 10,000 hours using the circle dot reticle. Even without solar backup, you can leave this optic running for years rather than months. The battery tray slides out from the side, so you can change it without removing the optic or losing your zero, which matters if this optic is mounted on a carry pistol you depend on daily. This optic also uses a multi-reticle system, letting you switch between a small precision dot and a larger circle dot instantly without losing zero. The one common complaint across owner reports is slower customer service on warranty claims compared to Vortex, so document everything if you ever need a repair. Even with that friction, the hardware has proven itself reliable enough that many competition shooters and concealed carriers choose it over far more expensive options. Number 6. SIG Sauer Romeo-5. The Romeo-5 has been tested longer than almost anything else on this list, with some reviewers running the same unit for more than 4 years straight. It sells for around $100 to $120, which puts it in direct competition with optics that cost twice as much. One tester mounted the Romeo-5 on a rifle, fired 500 rounds of mixed ammunition including steel case, and never touched the adjustment turrets. The zero held through every round. The same tester then dropped the mounted rifle onto concrete 3 separate times from shoulder height. The optics survived every drop without shifting. The feature that sets the Romeo-5 apart is called MOTAC, short for Motion Activated Illumination. The optic senses movement and powers on automatically, then shuts off after it sits still for about 2 minutes. This alone stretches battery life far beyond what constant use would allow, with SIG rating the unit at over 40,000 hours. Multiple owners running 2 or 3 Romeo-5 units across different guns, including 12-gauge shotguns, firing heavy magnum loads, report the same outcome. The optics still look and function like new after thousands of rounds. One important note: In January of 2025, Sig Sauer recalled about 230,000 Romeo-5 units. This recall had nothing to do with the optic breaking or losing accuracy. It was about the battery cap. Federal law now requires child-resistant packaging and warning labels on products with button cell batteries, and the affected units did not meet that standard. Sig sent out free replacement caps with proper labeling. If you own a Romeo-5 manufactured in 2023 or 2024 with a K or M as the last letter in the serial number, it is worth requesting the free kit directly from Sig Sauer. Every mechanical and optical part of the site was unaffected. It was strictly a packaging compliance issue, and the company has confirmed 0 injury reports connected to it. Beyond that recall, the Romeo-5 keeps earning trust for one simple reason. It rarely surprises anyone in a bad way. Owners running 3 or more units across different guns, from AR-15 rifles to 12-gauge shotguns loaded with heavy magnum shells, report the same story again and again. The optics still look and function like new after years of hard use, and everyone still holds 0 number 5. Vortex Defender CCW enclosed. If you want the toughest optic on this list, and you are willing to spend more to get it, the Defender CCW enclosed is built for exactly that. It runs close to $300 to $400, which puts it at the edge of what most shooters call a budget optic. But the construction explains the price. Unlike open emitter red dots, this one is fully enclosed. The emitter sits sealed inside the housing, which means dust, rain, and lint cannot get inside and block your dot. This enclosed design is the same approach used on optics built for police and military duty use, just at a fraction of the price. The body includes something Vortex calls a shock shield polymer insert, which absorbs impact before it ever reaches the internal electronics. It also runs on solar power as a backup source, so a dead battery does not mean a dead optic as long as there is light available. The lens carries an ArmorTech coating that resists scratches from holster wear, which matters here since this optic is built for daily carry rather than sitting mounted on a range rifle. Vortex backs it with the same unlimited lifetime VIP warranty that covers their entire lineup, fully transferable with no receipt required. One review team tested it extensively on a carry pistol and called it duty-grade reliability at a price that actually makes sense for civilians. If your budget can stretch this far, this is the closest thing to a premium enclosed emitter optic without paying premium enclosed emitter prices. Number 4. Sig Sauer Romeo-MSR. The Romeo-MSR is Sig's answer for shooters who want Romeo-5 style reliability in an even smaller package. It typically sells in the same range as the Romeo-5, right around $100 to $130. And it carries the same waterproof rating that allows submersion up to 1 meter. This optic uses the same aircraft-grade aluminum construction as its larger sibling, but it drops the MOTAC motion activation to save on cost. Instead, it relies on a manual rotary dial on top of the optic to turn it on and off, meaning you have to remember to shut it down to stretch that battery life. Where the Romeo-MSR stands out is size and weight. It is noticeably lighter than the standard Romeo-5, which matters if you are running a lightweight patrol rifle or a pistol caliber carbine where every ounce counts. The trade-off is a smaller viewing window, so if you prioritize a wide field of view over compact size, the standard Romeo-5 might suit you better. Owners who have run both side by side describe the MSR as feeling more refined in daily handling, with the same tactile, audible click adjustments that let you confirm a zero change without looking down at the turret. Either way, you get the same track record of holding zero through drops and heavy use that made the original Romeo-5 a favorite among budget-conscious shooters. Number 3. Holosun HS43B. The Holosun 43B fills a role most lists overlook. It is one of the most affordable optics Holosun makes, typically priced under $100, but it still carries the core durability features that make Holosun a trusted name. The aluminum housing is rated waterproof and shockproof, and it includes 10 brightness settings, so you can match the dot to whatever lighting condition you are shooting in. Unlike the pricier 507C, the 403B runs on a single battery without a solar backup, but Holosun still rates it for tens of thousands of hours of runtime on lower brightness settings. For a shooter who wants a genuine Holosun product, without stepping up to the $300 tier, this is the entry point. It will not have the solar failsafe or the multi-reticle system of the higher-end models, but it still includes Holosun's signature shake-awake technology, along with the sealed housing and aluminum construction that carry over from the rest of the Holosun lineup. The 403B works best as a first red dot for a shooter who wants brand reliability on a tight budget, or as a backup optic to keep in reserve for a truck gun or a secondary rifle. The turrets adjust in the precise increments found on Holosun's more expensive models, and the glass, while not as refined as the 507C, stays clear enough for practical shooting out to a couple hundred yards. It proves that a trusted name does not always mean a high price tag, as long as you understand exactly which features you are giving up to get there. Number 2. Bushnell AR Optics TRS-25 weight. Before you say this is a repeat, this is a different animal from the base TRS-25. The AR Optics version was built specifically for AR-15 platforms with a taller integrated mount designed for proper co-witness height right out of the box. Price sits close to the standard TRS-25, usually under $100, but the mount alone saves you the cost of buying a separate riser. The durability story matches its sibling almost exactly. Same lifetime warranty program from Bushnell, same 5-year coverage on the electro-optic components, same aluminum housing rated for water resistance and shock. Owners who have run this exact model on AR-15 platforms for years report the same outcome as the standard version. It keeps holding zero, it keeps working after drops, and when something does eventually go wrong, Bushnell has a track record of standing behind the warranty without a fight. The brightness settings and dot clarity are nearly identical to the standard TRS-25, and that includes the same weakness, a battery life around 5,000 hours with no auto shutoff. If you forget to turn it off, you will be buying batteries more often than you would with a Romeo-MSR or a Holosun. The 3 MOA dot stays sharp and easy to pick up quickly, which is exactly what most shooters want for close-range defensive work or fast target transitions. If what you want is proven Bushnell durability, built specifically for a rifle platform, this version removes one extra purchase from your list and gets you shooting sooner. For new shooters building their first AR-15 on a tight budget. Number 1. Aimpoint Duty RDS. Some shooters will argue this one does not belong on a budget list, and at around $500, it is priced above nearly everything else here. But Aimpoint built the Duty RDS specifically to bring their legendary durability down to a price point regular shooters could actually reach, and the difference in reliability shows up the moment you compare failure rates. Aimpoint optics have a well-documented history of running for years on a single battery, with some military-grade models rated for over 80,000 hours of continuous use. The Duty RDS carries that same engineering into a smaller, lighter package built from the same rugged aluminum housing Aimpoint has used on combat-proven optics for decades. It is built to survive drops, heavy recoil, submersion, and extreme temperature swings without losing zero, because that is the standard Aimpoint holds every product to before it ever reaches a shelf. Aimpoint has spent decades supplying optics to military units around the world, and that background shapes every design decision on the Duty RDS. The controls are simple on purpose, a single button to cycle through brightness, because a complicated interface is one more thing that can fail under pressure. The glass stays remarkably clear with almost no tint, letting you keep both eyes open and stay focused on the target. If your budget allows you to stretch this far, This optic represents the ceiling of what long-term reliability looks like before you cross into optics that cost $1,000 or more.